All right, folks, we're going live, Curtis Jones. We're doing this live. You ready for this? Working without a net.
I am ready for this. That's my whole life. There's no net.
There's no net. Well, it's gonna get complex in this one. So, and it's your fault. The complexity is your fault because you suggested this.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but thank you for doing this. This is a week number 2 of the Curtis Jones anthology, I guess we could call it. You know?
Variety hour.
The variety 2 hour. Yeah, the first one was on simplicity, which is or minimalism, which is
hmm
you teach that a lot, and this one kind of as the yang to that yin is going to be all about complexity. And what's that all about? This should be interesting. And as I was telling you before we came in here, I purposely, or actually, let's call it purposely. I purposely did not look at the images this week until now. So I haven't looked at them even now. So I'm going in hot, completely fresh. I know you've looked at them and did
I
research
have.
and all the things, right? So we're the yin yang here. I'm going in fresh with brand new eyes to look at these. So
This
this
is
should be,
perfect.
yeah, that's the way. Yeah, it should be really interesting. All right, thanks for everybody. Thanks to folks that are showing up in the chat. I see some faces showing up in there. Hey, James Glenny, welcome, welcome, welcome. All right. Well, Curtis, before we dive into this, what's new with you? What's happening up there in the north? I know you guys have watched. Please tell me you watched. What is it? Robots.
Love, Death, and
Di-
Robots.
Love, Death, and Robots. Yeah. Did you guys watch that? Did you binge it?
We, yeah, yeah. I mean, there were like no options. Renee had that like on her radar, so we binged it the day it came out. Yeah.
Favorite episode? Favorite episode of all of them?
I'm
I
partial
I want to
to.
pick. Can I pick Renee's? Can I pick what I think Renee's was?
Sure.
It's one of
Yeah.
two. There's
I know
one
which
of
one.
two.
I know which one it is. So yeah.
Okay, all right. I have two chances. It was either the episode with the zombies, the miniature zombies, or the one with I'm not sure what the I forgot what the title of it was, but it was the dancing sort of Asian jewel encrusted
Yeah.
person that
So
was killing people. Which
yeah. So
which one?
that was like the I'm not sure. I forget the names of all these things, but you're right on the money. So her number one was that one, the final episode, which I think was like, conquistadors in the Amazon or like something like that.
Yeah, yeah, or China
Which
or something.
or maybe it was, yeah. It looked. I mean, that was pretty cool. And then yeah, the mini zombies one was
Hmm.
a big favorite.
Picked it.
So
Picked it.
you
Yeah.
nailed it. I
I want
like
to see a
I.
whole movie like that. The zombies.
So can you get mine now though?
Okay, so Curtis Jones. Oh man, that's tough. Okay, because you're multifaceted. Okay, you got to tell me. I have no idea because I liked all of them. I don't think I have a favorite.
I said this to Renee. I loved the first season of Love, Death, and Robots. I mean, it was groundbreaking. It was amazing. Second season was good, but I just wasn't as into it. Like, I have a couple like that I like, and I'll rewatch, but probably not all of them. In the
Yeah,
third season, I think they like took it up again. I loved every episode.
yeah.
And my favorite, I like those two we just talked about, but I just really liked the one about the sailing vessel and the crab that was trying to
Oh
get to the island.
yes. Oh my
That had
god.
that had
Yeah.
all the perfect imagery and like lore and story that kind of like swims around in my head all the time. So
Yes. Oh, that was so dark.
yeah,
That was so
yeah,
dark.
yeah. I mean, I'm a pretty positive guy, but I like my sci-fi to be dark.
I'm sorry, Curtis. When giant like demonic crabs stick their tentacles into a human and puppet him to talk, that's that's
Yeah,
like oh my god, yeah, jeez,
and the only way out is to like sacrifice all your shipmates.
everybody.
Yeah,
I love it. All right,
it's
well,
perfect.
this was a commercial for Love, Death, and Robots. If you haven't seen it, you need to go see it. So yeah, my least favorite episode, and I promise we'll jump into the chat right or into the critique right now. I think my least favorite episode was the one. I think it was season 2, the one with the giant dead body rotting on the beach.
Yeah,
Not a
I
fan.
when I was talking about season 2, how they kind of hit a low point for me, a lower point. That's exactly what I was thinking about. Was
Yeah.
that one episode?
Yeah, yeah. And for some reason, I keep not wanting to watch that. So I watched it through once before, and then I watched season 2 and got to that point. And every time I get to that one, I'm like, no, hell no, I'm not watching this. And I get out of
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
But after now, anytime I watch an episode of that series, because I haven't finished that one, when the current one finishes, it jumps to that one again. It's like, oh, you want to
Yep.
finish watching this disgusting one? Yeah.
It's coming. You got it.
It's like force it, force it.
The AI wants you to watch it.
I'm not gonna watch it, AI. Not gonna watch it. Okay, all right, man. Well, let's dive into this. This is great. Hey, Rick Kilboy. Hey, Nora. Welcome, everybody into the chat. We're ready to dive into this thing live. Once again, your friend and mine over here, Mr. Curtis Jones, photographer, world traveler, secret undercover agent that he's not telling anybody about. He's the Jason Bourne of our community, and you guys don't even know. I know.
Yeah, that's right. I beat people up with books. Yeah, and I don't remember my past.
That's exactly what a secret agent would say. Just say it. All right, let's do this. So again, this is photo critique number 190. The topic was complexity, as provided by this guy, Curtis Jones. Let's dive into the community. Here we are. So here we are, 190. I'm going to go ahead and show the comments, folks. If you are not a member of the community or you are a member and have not submitted photos into the critique, this is how you do it. You just come to this area inside the community, critique submissions right here. See that? Just click on that and you will see this. And then from within here, the latest one is complexity. So just click on the comments for that and add a comment. That's how you submit. All you do is add a comment, and you add a comment by typing in the comment field at the bottom, somewhere down there. Yeah, trust me, it's in there somewhere. I don't know, but yeah, here it is, right here. So you click on comment right there and add a comment, and within that comment, the circle is a platform we're using. It's really robust in terms of things that you can add to a comment. Almost anything can be added, including images, videos, whatever. So, but for the purposes of this critique, it's all photos. And the first one up, submitted by our friend Troy Miller, is in the web of aspens, taken somewhere off the June Lake Loop near Mammoth, California. Let's take a look at this. It's complex, and it has Troy Miller's signature infrared style going on in here. What do you think, Curtis?
I don't know anything about infrared. That's the first thing I thought about when I looked at this. I was like,
"Wait, you're the one."
Yeah, I'm that one. That's all I know about infrared. I get on the Friday night hangouts.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, but the thing about this kind of infrared stuff is that I find it super interesting. Anytime anybody shows this work, I'm really intrigued. It's kind of a phenomenal way to look at the world, especially if you're like someone like myself who takes tons of landscape photos. Being able to see some stuff like this, I think it's a fun thing for me to think about trying at some point in the future for sure. And I feel like it's going to be one of those like rabbit hole phenomenons.
Yeah,
but
inexpensive rabbit hole. So
yeah. Okay, yeah, that's the key point, I guess.
But someone like you, I mean, before you give your comments on this shot, someone like you, Curtis, that travels to, let's call it, less than hospitable for human locations, right, around the planet.
Just shy of Mars.
Yeah, just shy of Mars. But as a result, there's not a whole lot of green foliage and things that will contrast enough, because infrared, I'm not sure how infrared works. I know how infrared works, but what reflects off of what, I get confused. But right. Out there in the Arctic, like with everything reflecting every band of the electromagnetic spectrum, pretty much reflecting that. Can you do infrared in a situation like that? I mean, would it work, or is it just like you're gonna get a blank frame every time?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question, because I honestly, you're right. There isn't a ton of green. There are pieces, and maybe those would be enough to make it somewhat interesting and definitely unique. I haven't seen much infrared work from polar regions. or like even some of the desert places that I've been.
Mm-hmm.
I guess there you're getting yellows and blues mostly, or browns. Um, so the little bit of green that does kind of work into it, I bet would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
Uh, I
it's
think that
interesting.
it would be a pretty nice addition to the minimalism stuff. Already, a lot of the IR stuff kind of looks like a lot of my minimalist work in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
ways.
That's right.
So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
interesting. Yeah, I mean, a challenge. Challenge yourself, Curtis. Take an infrared modified camera body to the South Pole, and photograph penguins.
yeah, I'll dress them up,
And
put those green
yeah,
man suits on them, and let them
there you
waddle
go.
around.
Yeah, just bring some little penguin size, green screen suits. Put them on there.
Yeah.
But does this shot fit
Okay.
into the category of complexity? Feels complex to me.
Yeah, 100%. It does. I think when I said complexity, I said it basically as like just a bookend to simplicity. And then I didn't really think too much about the fact that I don't shoot a lot of complex stuff. And so it was a little bit, it was interesting this week trying to like wrap my head around what that means in terms of what I shoot and how I could possibly give like feedback or look at these things. Yeah, I think it's complex. It definitely has layers. It has depth. There's dimension. There's a lot going on. I think that if it was in color, it would be too much information. So it would be definitely complex, but it would be busy. And the other thing that I think is great is without the darker sort of silhouetted branches and trees that are in there, it would become too flat. You'd lose like the depth, right? Right now we can kind of see past the first layer into the middle and the foreground. Sorry, the background, and then like the sharpness falling off. So that helps a lot
Yeah.
in because I think the thing about these complex images is creating order and something that's pleasing to look at or interesting to look at without it being too frantic and hard to look at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, this one I totally agree. And this one I look at from, well, it's complex for one, right? So it's got a lot of detail and it draws you in. And I think again, Troy, you'll have to chime in on this. Like the dark or the black branches in this shot, were those green? And that's why they were reflecting more infrared? Is that how it works? And the white birch were not? I don't know. That's what I want to know. I probably have it reversed, I'm sure. But when I look at this shot, I think 100% complex. I think this is the right move to shoot something like this in infrared with those dark branches in there. Because like you said, Curtis, it adds a layer of dimension and depth to it. Without those, it would just be a bunch of branches. With those, it kind of draws you in and makes you wonder, hey, what's back there? Because I can feel that there's dimension and mystery in
Yeah,
in the back.
and it forces me to kind of like instead of just if it was all the same, just those sort of the white branches front to back, I would look at it and sort of pass over it. It wouldn't be much to draw me in, like you just said, and this forces me to stop midway and take in some of the shapes that I just kind of shot past in the foreground, and then continue on a little further into the photograph.
Hmm. You know what's interesting about this shot, though? We joke with Troy Miller about borders all the time because he's a big fan of borders, especially the sloppy borders. But he chose not to put a border on this one, and like this shot feels like one that would benefit from a black border because it would kind of offset or complement the black features within the photo and trap the chaos that's going on in this shot. But he chose to omit the border where you absolutely should have put a border, Troy Miller. I don't know. What do you
It's
think,
true.
Curtis?
I think I like borders sometimes, and I think black border would be cool here. I think it would trap some of that chaos from kind of like leaking out. Um, yeah, hard to say, I guess, unless we tried it, but I don't
I
think you're
know.
wrong.
I
Yeah,
know. I know. This whole thing is subjective, right? I mean, that's the whole
but
point of these.
also we went off on borders quite hard last week, so maybe people are a little gun shy.
But no, they're not because this is Troy Miller, who is the king of borders, and
Can't be rattled. Yeah.
he's the Pied Piper of borders, right? And infrared and fire and so no, I dig this. I dig this shot a lot. One of the things we say a lot is, could this shot be what would it look like big? Like if you were walking to some like the Salesforce Tower down in San Francisco, one of these giant gazillion dollar, bazillion dollar real estate companies that has infinite space inside. Would this be at home in the lobby, like printed big in the waiting area, or in a medical facility or something? And I think so. I think this passed the test of, I could definitely see this gigantic even.
Yeah.
It looks amazing.
And I bet there's like all kinds of there's probably tons of really incredible detail in there.
Mm-hmm.
That once printed big that's what would make it perfect for a wall, especially
Yeah.
a larger setting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very cool. Good shot, Troy Miller. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. All right. And who's next? All right. Next up is, my browser will let me click on stuff. There we go. Next up is Phil. Labyrinth, he calls this one. Look at that. I love that.
Yeah, that's
this
cool.
one, I saw this one, I thought, and I'll go first. I think what I saw first in this was the zigzag of kind of this path that he's taking me through, like all the way back there. I feel like I'm Frodo on a journey going back, making my way all the way through back here. So yeah. I loved all that. I love that. And I love this look that he does with these long exposures, making it look very, we were talking about in the last meetup or the last mixer, they look very kind of Japanese painting. I forget the type of Japanese painting this evokes, but it very much looks like that. And the monochrome just sells it even further. It just becomes a timeless kind of shot. I think if I was to throw one criticism at a shot like this, it's this foreground that feels a little bit disjointed, for me at least, from the rest of the shot. This area right down here, because it's the rock tones. I realize, because of atmosphere and other things get less detailed as they go off into the distance. And it makes perfect sense for this to be this sharp up close to the camera, but it feels out of place in the context of these other features back here, which want to draw me in. I almost feel like I have an obstacle down here to get over before I get to the goodness of following this Frodo path back here. Yeah. So I don't know if the solution is to tone these down in the foreground and make them match the background rocks a little better, or crop them out completely. So I don't know. What do you think?
I agree. I like the zigzag. I like the pattern. What I like about this photo too is that it is complex in that there's a lot going on, but almost all the shapes in here are the same or very similar. So that repetition kind of like takes a complex composition and simplifies it somewhat, which I can appreciate. And I think what I also really like about it is it kind of looks like an establishing shot, like in a movie, like you were saying, or like a graphic novel. You don't really know how big those rocks are. I'm assuming they aren't mountains, but they could be, kind of, when you look at it.
Yeah.
And one of the things that takes me out of that belief is the foreground, like you said. So I don't know if it's like to crop it so that there's less of it, or to tone it down. I think if you removed it completely, you'd lose a little bit of that suggested sort of like lead in.
Yeah.
That's sometimes nice. Like it kind of giving it like that extra layer. Maybe it would be a little bit more flat or too flat if you got rid of that foreground altogether.
Yeah.
But it could be as simple as just toning it down, especially in the bottom left corner. Like it's a little hot in that one spot that kind of like takes you out.
Here.
Yeah. But I don't know. It's cool. Like, and the other thing about this is, again, like talking about printing things big, you could probably take, I don't know, 4 different cropped in versions of this at different points in that composition and make individual prints as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I dig it. It does suck you in though. Yeah, I look at shots like this and I wonder, this is, I guess from a portrait or fashion perspective, if there was a person in here, up on the rocks up here, would that balance it more?
Yeah, I was even thinking like right in the middle where there's a bit of a saddle if you had just a small figure,
Oh, right here.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, even just outlined in the haze of the water,
Hmm.
I guess.
Yeah.
But that's kind of creating something much more conceptual, because then it's really turning it into, because I don't think this is as large as it looks, right? And if there was a person there, that person standing on that foreground might be a boot. Like that's all we'd get is the bottom part of someone's leg.
Right. Or it could
Because
be gigantic, right?
or
Because
it could be gigantic.
looking back here, there's a tree here, right? Is that tree giant, or is that, and that's part of the mystery, I think, of the shot. Because
Yeah.
you look at that, I'm like, is that just a little shrub, or is that a tree that I could lean against, right?
Right. Right.
And
Exactly.
just based on these 100 pixels right here, our brain is trying to infer the size of the whole scene based on just this little thing, right?
Yeah.
So
And if you
if
put a
there was,
little figure right in the middle, then it would give everything context. And if that
yeah,
figure was, yeah, somebody's boot, then you'd know, okay, this is a micro, like a macro shot. And if it's the whole person silhouetted, then it's like, yeah, this is a vista.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Or if there's a cruise ship down here or something,
Oh
right?
yeah,
It's
pirate
like, oh,
ship.
a pirate ship. Thank you. Yeah, or Loch Ness monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool shot though, Phil. But Phil is missing one thing. I've been looking through the shot. I can't find the signature Phil element.
The
And
bird.
the bird. Where's the bird?
Hey, maybe he's in there just bopping around.
The bird's the word, Phil. Come on, where's the bird?
Poor Phil. He's trying to break out of a box we're forcing him into.
Put him back in. He's getting typecast.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I dig this. This is really nice. Thank you, Phil. All right. Up next is our friend Craig Stampley from Down Under construction. Oh, this is interesting. Look at this. Definitely
Yeah.
complex. You know what I saw when I looked at this one, Curtis? I was thinking, um, obviously the you can tell. Well, first of all, my brain looks at this and is trying to figure out which way is up. Like,
Mm.
was the artist playing games with me, and turn the camera on its side to make me think more? And then you look out past all this lattice work and piping, and you see the trees. Okay, the tree is growing in the right direction. Now I'm anchored in reality. But then I was thinking, wouldn't it have been cool if he rotated his this,
Yeah.
this 90 degrees, just rotate it and make us think, because it
Yeah.
would make us think and hold us in the image that much longer, and sell the fact that it's all about this grid and not about anything else. It's about the grid. And I'm proving that to you by rotating this and making you look past all the obstructions to even get your bearings. I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think?
I had the exact same thought. I did the double take. I said, "What can I find here to like visual cues that anchor this in a like the right orientation?" So I did
Yeah.
exactly what you did. I wasn't sure at first if this was like the right orientation or not, which is cool. Like I think that's a fun thing to be playing with, and it's cool that it's nice that as two individual viewers of this photograph, we had the same sort of response.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's definitely complex. There's a lot going on, but just like the other two images that we just went through, there's a lot of repetition and order. So there's tons happening here, but it's ordered, right? It's not just random, just exploded. It reminds me quite a bit of like the those scenes in Inception or Doctor Strange, where they start
Yeah.
like pulling away at the fabric of reality and things kind of like fold in on themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
um, so it's fun in the sense of it's pleasing to look at. There's order. There's a lot happening. The longer I look at it, the more I'm looking for, and I like all the lines just are kind of doing the right thing. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like it
Yeah.
keeps throwing my eyes just like roaming around this thing, and never really
Yeah.
stopping in one place or leaving the frame or whatever.
And if the lines in this image weren't perpendicular, relatively perpendicular, that I think that would throw us off, because we want lines to be straight. And when we look at this one, I feel like everything is in its place and it's vertical and horizontal, very
Exactly.
well put together. Yeah,
And then
because
the
your
ones
brain
that are
wants to look
on,
for the wrong ones, right? It wants to look
yeah.
for the errors.
And then the fact that those perfect lines are repetitive, no matter which, if they're coming from the bottom to the top or coming in from the right and at a slight sort of like perspective tilt, those are also like the spacing between all these lines. is repeated as well. Everything is
Hmm.
quite even.
Yeah.
So nothing really grabs me as being off. It all works together, and there's a lot happening, a lot of lines, but somehow they all work really well together.
No, for sure. I look at shots like this and I think, and I'm curious what you think about it. I went to a workshop a while back with Vincent Versace, and he was talking about the idea of pattern interrupted was the discussion, right? Repeating patterns and using repeating patterns as a compositional element and then interrupting them, to provide that interest, right? For example, a beach with rippled sand on it and the sand is interrupted by a seashell,
Yeah.
or footprints or something like that. I look at these kinds of shots and I wonder, would something like that work in a complex non-uniform shot like this? For example, if you did this shot and not to, like you said, there's a boot in here or, something in here to
Hmm.
draw your attention away from the organized anarchy, slightly symmetrical nature of the shot, right? Something to pull you away from that. Would it make sense in a shot like this, or is it better on its own, standing on its own merits? What do you think?
I think it. Yeah, I think it's possible. I honestly believe that just like with the minimalist stuff, there's uh, a point where it gets so complicated that there's nothing like you've lost the plot. But if you push past that point and start introducing even more stuff, you start to get like it starts to be about something else, and you form a new plot. And so there probably is, if we started introducing too much stuff here now, or one extra thing, maybe it would throw it all off, but maybe two extra elements would balance it out again, kind of thing. So if there was
Mm-hmm.
a person coming down the steps from the top, that might be enough to like kind of throw it off balance. But if that person was, if say there was just like a foot or a boot coming down from the top, and then there was the top half of a person leaving at the bottom, do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So if
Yeah.
you had the bottom half and the top half of a person, they were two different people.
Oh
Maybe
yeah,
that
that would be cool.
it
That
would
would be
make it more
cool.
complicated, a lot busier, and there's more going on. But it would also balance it out again. Whereas if it was just one person coming in from the top, that might be enough to throw it off. So yeah, I think you can always play around with that stuff. Yeah, for sure. It's about it. It's really about like that spectrum of simple to complex is just playing with that balance all the time, right? And pushing it one way or the other. And that's why whenever I teach minimalism and stuff, I try not to stick to uh, like a very specific description of what minimalist photography is, because I feel like you can have fairly complicated things that still can work as quite simple and minimal,
Yeah.
um, but with much going on.
I was also thinking about a shot just a second ago. I was thinking, that was it MC Escher, those
Hmm.
Escher
Yeah,
drawings where people are walking inexplicably on different planes. That would
yeah,
be interesting to try in this shot where somebody's walking up the stairs and then you rotate it and somebody's hanging with gravity doing the wrong thing somewhere else in the shot. That
exactly. Yeah, that'd
that
be
would
super
be
cool.
that would be really cool. Yeah, a lot of possibilities. Or just leave it like it is, Craig Stampley. It's a great shot. We're like, yeah, the shot's great, but do all these other things to it.
Yeah, yeah. If it was my shot,
It was my shot, and it was
now that
shot
you've
with
done all the hard work and found the composition, there's what I
exactly.
would
Yeah, I'll go there and shoot it with a real camera, right?
do. Yeah.
All right, that's cool. Thank you, Craig Stampley. Appreciate that. Under construction. Irvin Penn is up next. Irvin B. Penn, Outcast. He titles this one. All right, feels like we're in infrared land again here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Um,
let you go first. What do you think?
I think that just like with Troy's, although not quite as like as complex, I guess.
Yeah.
But there is still a lot happening here. And what I like about this is that you again getting all the vertical lines, so you're creating beautiful separation between the trees. It's somewhat like again that repeating pattern, and then this is probably what you were sort of talking about with interrupting the pattern. You throw a larger, more prominent foreground tree right up front,
Yeah.
and it breaks that repetition, and so it adds a layer of complexity that also I feel like makes the shot more interesting. So if he didn't have that tree up front and it was just the trees going across that wide angle of repetition, 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 it might not work as well. So adding this foreground element, making the picture mostly about that tree, and then letting us sort of like just absorb the background that's complex but repetitive, kind of keeps my attention forward a bit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I like this. For some reason, when I first looked at this shot, I thought Bob Ross. For some reason, I don't know why. I don't even know if Bob Ross ever painted anything like this, but I just thought happy little trees, and I remember him making those little, you make the tree trunks by just, okay, there you go, and here's a tree, and it looked like exactly like a tree 2 seconds later.
yeah, and he would always blow your mind, right? He's just like, here's the background, here's the little trees, and you understand that you're following along, and you look down for a second. When you look back up, he's got like a forest in the foreground with like a cottage and a campfire.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah. And he drew with a stick, right? He's like,
blowing
oh yeah,
minds.
yeah. Now we'll just put some branches in there just like that. And it looks exactly like a tree. Yeah. That's what this reminded me of, because it's very, very high frequency with the trees, or with the leaves and the foliage, which obviously infrared kind of makes them pop even more. But then those happy little trees back there, that he just put in there with the little lines that just give you the hint of what's going on without giving you the whole story and letting your brain fill in the rest. Yeah. I don't have much feedback on this shot. This shot's really cool. I don't know where this really is, but I was thinking, would it be cool if, and I don't know if you shoot wide angle, like super wide angle, fisheye type stuff, Curtis, but a shot like this, or in Muir Woods here in Northern California, with the camera on the ground looking straight up at a sky that's darkened because of the infrared, with the foliage backed against the tree with all the lines kind of converging, that might look really interesting too, as an alternative.
I bet there's tons of potential in a situation like this, and I honestly don't spend enough time working these more complicated compositions, especially with my go-to is just to, like, if I walk into this woods, I'm putting like a 200 focal length on my camera and shooting past everything, because my brain doesn't naturally put order to like the wider scenes like that where there's a lot happening, right? So it's a great exercise for me to, say, walk into a wooded area with only a 16 or a 14 or a 12 millimeter or something like that on, and see if I can create order in there. And I think that I would do something like lie on my back and shoot upwards and try to get like converging lines or whatever. Shooting in black and white. I mean, every photo so far has been black and white, so that's interesting as well.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, interesting. Well, yeah, because it's complexity, right? And we're the emphasis is on the complex and the shapes and all that composition. Interesting, though. I hadn't even noticed. It's interesting for me that I hadn't even noticed they were all black and white. You're right. 100%. Very cool. Shows how astute I am. Cool shot, though. Yeah, I like this. Really cool.
Yeah.
All right, Irvin, thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to try that. There's a forested area close by here. I'll probably go and try to rip you off.
Oh, do it and post it as a comment on this shot. Yeah, I want to see it.
I don't think I'm going to improve. I'm just setting myself up for like ridicule.
Now you said it. It's out there. We're streaming live, remember? So now you have to do it.
True. Yeah, true.
All right. Nora Zanotnis is up next. The launch. Can an image be complex but not chaotic? Oh, here's a question for you. Look at that. This is complex.
Yes, obviously.
Order from chaos, right?
Yeah. That's what I was saying. Like, I love that idea of being able, it's like a superpower for me. It's easy, for whatever reason, the way my brain is wired, to see simplicity, but then to create order from chaos, it takes some time for me. So I can appreciate this. This is really cool. It's not only is it like chaotic in the subject matter on the left side, but the natural or organic thing that's happening here is exactly that as well. You're creating, order and simplicity from something more chaotic.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's cool. Like, it becomes a minimalist image the further you go to the right.
Yeah, it does. It starts complex and then gets minimalist as you go on. I love the weighting, though. I love how she purposely obviously the artist is saying, hey, this dandelion on the left is the beginning of all this stuff, and it's sending its children out to the right. She's cutting off a little bit of it. I mean, the part of the I don't know, part of the knee jerk reaction to composition in a shot like this would be to pull out a little bit to show the whole, dandelion on the left side, and then kind of do the composition like she did. But Nora was bold and went in tight on this, cutting off a lot of this guy over here, which makes me think, okay, this is important, but really the subjects are these guys over here because they're not cut off and they're actually going somewhere. And she left space for them to travel into on the right side, which is brilliant, really cool.
I
What do
think,
you think?
make it the choice to zoom in and crop like that was the right one for
Mm-hmm.
maybe for the photo, but also for the assignment for the critique. Because if she was pulled back more and you had some nice white space and negative space on the left side, I think then it would become a much more minimalist image, much simpler. Even though you have the same subject, it would just become smaller in that sea of space, and it wouldn't feel as immediate or as you know what I mean? Like it wouldn't have that heavy weight on one side going out to like the softer, lighter section,
Mm-hmm.
and it wouldn't feel as complex, even though it's the same subject, and you're including more of it. If you pull back, the image would, in my mind, get simpler.
Could Nora? Do you think she could submit this into both a minimalism critique and into a complexity critique? Would it work equally well in each, depending on subjectivity? I guess.
Yeah, and I'd probably give like my feedback if this was submitted for a minimalist critique. I'd say this is a beautiful minimalist image. You could make it more minimal by pulling back more, showing more of like the dandelion on the left, and so that it's like a unified single subject
Mm-hmm.
in a larger white space, or zoom in on just like those free birds on the right side. That would be like, how do you make it more minimal or more simple?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so it definitely could work. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, a photo that could get you sort of engaged on the topic of being minimal or being complex is, it, could belong in either.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's her take on this is interesting as well because the she went high key with the background, which lends itself obviously to minimalism, and not so much complexity, right? But the organism on the left side is completely complex. The knee jerk reaction, I think, when you say, okay, show me a complex image, is high frequency patterns, lots of stuff going on, busyness, pattern interrupted, all those things. I look at this one and it successfully, talks chaos. But in each one of these little seeds that's sporing, there's chaos, right? And even their trajectory is going to be chaotic and complex before they find some place to hopefully seed, right?
Yeah,
And yeah, the whole thing is complex, but on a minimalist, completely high key white background.
yeah.
Complexity on high key without using all the pixels for complexity. She still pulled it off. I think
It's
it's very well
it's
done.
on. It's like that spectrum again, right? And she's like that middle ground. It's not high frequency like some of the others we just looked at. It's not as simple as it could be to be a pure minimalist photo,
Hmm.
and it's kind of riding in the in between there, which makes it engaging and interesting to look at, talk about, which is kind of
Yeah.
the point.
Yeah, and again, I could see this one. This is one of those that I could see big, right? Because imagine you're in some giant venue or something, and this is wall size, like maybe 20 feet tall or 10 feet tall, and a human is just kind of standing right here looking at it, about
Oh
that
yeah,
big. Wouldn't that
yeah.
be amazing, right?
So
To
that
stick.
would be a great shot if that was that big in a museum or a gallery, and there was like somebody looking at it, and then you took that shot of the
Yeah,
thing on the wall with the person.
yeah. There you go. And if you did that, who owns the photo at that point?
Yeah,
Nor beware. But that would be
yeah.
cool, something that's obviously small, blown up, gigantic wall size, with this level of uh, compositional creativity and talent behind it would look pretty amazing.
And here's another example of, speaking of borders, like if we got rid of the black border, would it change our idea of of it working as well as it does? Because the black
Mm.
the black border forces us to stop, but we don't float off with those little spores. You know what I mean? We kind of are
Yeah.
forced to go back into the image again and around. And even the fact that the stem, the main stem on the dandelion, goes right into the black frame is like a perfect jumping off point to get back into the image.
Mm-hmm.
So our
Yeah.
eye kind of goes around.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because the other side of that is, just because we're on this circle platform and they choose to display images against a white background, right? If she hadn't put a border on this, sure, it would have bled right into the page, and we would have very few cues as to where it cut off, except for where it's obviously cut off over here. But
Yeah.
if this was like on thisweekinphoto.com, the gallery's there, light box against a black background. So this obviously would have seen the borders, and the border wouldn't have been necessary. So yeah, it's interesting. I like it like this,
I
but
do too. I think it's
if
great like
if you were
this.
to put it like, if it's location, like in the example of putting it in a some sort of venue or some place where it's gigantic, it would depend on the size of the where it's going to go, or the color of the wall where it's going to sit. So if it's in
Yeah.
this completely antiseptic white area, would it make sense to also make this one bleed off into white and put it on the wall? Maybe that's part of the composition, because
Yeah.
you know where it's going to go and you want it to feel like it's floating in space, in this giant space. But on the other hand, maybe you don't. Maybe you want it contained because of reasons. I don't know.
And it's a good
So,
reason for people who are printing their stuff or getting or trying to figure out how to get their stuff shown in galleries or coffee shops or wherever you want to show your stuff, to have like some input on how it's shown and how it's printed and how it's framed or matted or whatever, because you still have, as an artist and as owner of that piece of artwork, even though the wall space isn't necessarily yours, the way you want people to see it and the way you want to show it is important. And so it's important to, if possible, to be able to visit the places or see the places virtually or whatever, and have some input in like the way that it's framed and mounted and put on walls,
yeah,
because that
yeah,
becomes
yeah.
part of the visual experience and part of your expression.
Right. If you have that luxury to be able to go to the venue and you know where this thing is going to live forever, then you shoot for that, right? I mean, that goes to the size of the thing, to everything. Nora in the chat says, she says her original image was pulled back but looked too minimal. Interesting. So she punched in tighter.
That's what I
Huh.
was saying. I was like, if you pull back on that, it would become more minimal again.
Mm-hmm. Really cool. Interesting.
Yeah.
Good
And you go
work.
in even further again, and it'll get minimal again. It's kind of weird.
Too much.
Yeah.
All right. Nora, thank you. Thank you for the complex but not chaotic, or chaotic but not complex. Next up is Raphael Swift. He says, I had another image in mind when I shot it, but this one's been talking to me. Shot on the old D7000 and Sigma 70 to 50 at 50 mil aperture, priority at 2.8.
Color.
Color. Yes. Look at that. What's this weird stuff in here?
I don't know what to do.
Yeah. All right. So this, I feel like this one is more into the photojournalist,
Hmm.
news photographer, documentary, or with a foot maybe in street photography. So it's not an abstract type shot. This is more of a literal shot that is complex, right? So you have this complex tree that burned for looks like no good reason. I don't know.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
tree just decided to spontaneously combust, and the fire department had to come out and take care of it. I don't
Yeah.
know. When you see a shot like this, what do you think? As a photographer, as a viewer, how does this make you feel?
I think that this is like that street photojournalist kind of look and appeal, and I honestly like, it's tough. I think, especially if it's like opportunistic, which this seems like it was, to get an ordered, minimal or simplified shot that also tells a story and is true to what was happening. So it's a really great example of real world scenario where you're going to have just inherent complexity. There's a lot going on, even at 50 millimeters, which isn't like super wide, but wide enough. There's still a lot going on in there that you might want to try to include if you're trying to like sell it to a newspaper or tell a story or create a photo essay or whatever. So then it becomes about seeing all the chaos and using things like uh, color cues, repeating color, shapes, lines, and separation of primary subjects. So if you look at this photo, there are probably, I don't know, like half a dozen at least subjects in here that this photo could be about. But because of the way that it's composed, we are to understand that the tree is probably the primary focus, the firefighter, and then the fire truck, and then the fact that it's an urban environment or a public place where maybe there's like more fire somewhere else going on, and maybe it's a more serious situation. We don't really know. So I think that there's a good job done of making us aware of what the primary subjects are. I think that this could be improved a little bit, maybe by creating some separation between the firefighter and that road sign.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just to, it's one of those things about trying not to have signage and things like that coming out of your people.
Right. Right.
But I don't know, maybe access issues as well, like where you're allowed to stand, who else is there. It could be shoulder to shoulder. So I don't know. And I like that this curved line from the bottom comes around and it kind of follows the same with the fire hose itself. Yeah, I think there's a lot working for it. It's a complex, complicated, busy scene that's pretty well represented as being like a real world. You don't have much control over what's happening. The only thing you can really control here is where you're standing and what kind of lens you sort of use to tell that story.
Yeah.
Shooting at a lower aperture was a good move. It blurs, enough of the background that we don't get, hyper sharpness back there and distraction.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, I think it's a really good example of that kind of photography that with a slight tweak to like the framing would become even stronger
Yeah.
for like for being a complex composition.
Yep. I agree. I agree what you said. I would throw on that. So looking at the shot, I see, like you said, I see multiple subjects in here, right? So there's the fire truck over here. There's obviously our human in here. And then I think the subject of this is the fire and the water going on, putting the tree out. It'd been great if there was some fire. Maybe you could composite a little bit of fire left in there. But the tree and this gnarly burnt up tree is interesting because we very rarely see that. So yeah, that's great. So compositionally, I think what I would do differently, if anything, on this shot would be lose some of this space on the right side, because that's not really serving the photo. All these pixels over here aren't really doing anything to tell the story of the shot. They're just, okay, there's a hose,
Yeah.
and some obscured cars back here. So that's the first thing I would do, kind of punch in a little bit to make it more about the subjects here. Secondly, like you were saying, Curtis, is signage in here, especially words in a scene, make us read the words and get taken off on a tangent. Like I'm reading this, it says drive up teller. So now I'm wondering, man, did they block the teller? So now I'm like way in the woods of what you wanted me to be thinking, which is about this tree. Right. So if you could have compositionally like shifted to the right, your right a little bit to move this sign more between the guys, or to the left to move it over here, and then maybe cloned it out if that's possible. I want to see this fireman, and I want to see his hose. I feel like the most important part of this image is the fact that there's water coming out of this hose as a result of this human and this fire truck, and it's being obscured by this random teller sign here.
Yeah, the hose on the shoulder, not to interrupt you, is almost like the floating head thing for me. Like at first when I looked at it, I wasn't 100% sure that water was like coming from a hose that probably was up on the shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. Which adds tension. You're like, okay, what's going on there? But the human, and there's only one human in the scene, and he or she is the most important thing going on here, right? Because they're doing that important work. So yeah, just compositionally get that sign out of there by any means necessary. I think whether if the situation didn't allow you to move to the right and then clone it out, which would probably have obscured the water, that would have been a lot of work, or move to the left or get to the other side, or just compositionally get them out of there and just understand that the bush, the person, and the truck are the most important things, and then crop in a little bit. I think it would have been a tighter
Yeah.
story to tell that story.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is the bright, aside from the water coming from the hose, which is obscured, the brightest parts of this image are this pavement here, I think, which you'd want to crop out. This pavement down here, which I think you'd want to crop some of that out. And this building in the background. So
Hmm.
with Capture One or similar, or even Lightroom applications, you can target this range back there and knock it down just a little bit so that it's not competing so much. And that would give you a little bit more contrast on the water here as well. Because right now I'm looking at that building back there and my brain is weird. So my brain goes, oh man, there's a fire there. How long did it take that fire truck to get there?
Yeah.
Yeah. How much is rent in those apartments? Those are clearly apartments. I wonder how much rent is. And did that affect how long it took the fire truck to get? So I'm going off on all these weird tangents.
Yeah, you're
When you
off on an
really,
adventure.
yeah, you really just want me to look at the guy or person putting out this burning
Yeah.
bush here. I don't know. Do you agree
I
with any of that?
Yeah, 100%. I think that it's those small tweaks in because the thing is that it's so what's different from the other shots that we looked at. I'm pretty sure all the other shots there was like it's not that it was more intentional, but the creator, the photographer had more control over what they were shooting and therefore presenting, right? It's almost like you went looking for subjects that fit your artistic vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this
Mm-hmm.
was happenstance probably, and you just stumble into like real world stuff happening, and so it is going to be complicated and hard to figure out and decipher really quickly. But I agree with what you said. I think shifting to the right would be a nice option because I think it would, if we came over this way, we get more of the truck, the
Mm-hmm.
firefighter, and the tree with the water coming down, and that is the story, like you said. The only problem with that is, yeah, you're probably going to get the sign right on top of the water or right on
Mm-hmm.
top of the tree, so that's
Right.
difficult.
Yeah.
Other than that, like, yeah, using maybe a different lens and punching past a lot of that distraction, I agree. Like those highlights need to be taken down or cropped out. Even, I mean, the simple, if you did two simple things here, like if you just cropped in from the right to get rid of that highlight and all the cars back that you don't need, or three things: cloned out the sign, which wouldn't be that easy because you got to recreate pixels of a hose you can't even see behind it,
Right.
and then take down the highlights on the background building
Mm-hmm.
without changing like your perspective. That would make it a stronger image. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but I mean, that's like, again, we're talking about like it's like a wish list sort of scenario, right? Like
Yeah.
it's
And like you
it's
said for
not.
that last image, it depends on what the purpose of this image is, right? So
Yeah,
is it just going to be a part of a news image about this bank that had some kids light the tree on fire? You're gonna It's gonna blow through it and be on to the next one, or
yeah,
is this some sort of big newsworthy event
yeah,
that if it's news, you're not doing all this pixel manipulation anyway, right? So if it's news, you're not cloning that sign out of there. You're not doing anything to the image because you can't mess with the pixels. But
yeah.
if it's intended for an artistic interpretation, then all pixels are born to be punished, and you can get in and manipulate, right?
I think it'd be fun to shoot right to the left as well, and then put a like a longer lens on that, a 70 or a 100 or something, and just get the smoking tree, the that backlit water spray, and then the firefighter,
Mm-hmm.
and then change it up so that like the tree is like front and center, and then you get the water, and then the firefighter as well. That could also be a cool image.
So if you did that, assuming that truck isn't moving, the fire truck, you'd be cropping that truck out of there, right? And
Yeah,
just
so in
using the
that
tree
version,
and the person, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
But
With your
so yeah,
200
you're
mil lens.
changing the story, obviously.
So you would shoot this with a 200?
Oh, I don't know. I
Well, it depends, right? It depends on
I think so.
how
Yeah,
much
I
room behind that tree.
exactly. Like, can I back up? 25, 30 feet. Am I
Yeah.
allowed to go right or left? And how fast this is happening? Is like a 50 fixed the only lens I have at the time? So there's a lot. That's the thing about street photography and especially photojournalism is like, you'll see a lot of photojournalists running around with like 3 bodies, right?
Hmm.
With different lenses because they're going to shoot in 15 seconds 3 different frames on 3 different focal lengths.
Yeah, yeah. So we had to do in the military. We had well, two bodies, usually one with a long zoom, and then one with a short zoom on it,
Yep.
and that was it. And if we couldn't bring both of those, it was usually one body with the 24 to 70 on it. Right, that was
Yep.
it. And you had to make it through the whole day with that. 99% of the time, even the Nikon that I just bought, I bought it with a 24 to 70 as the kind of basic go-to lens on it, and then I'll add from there.
I'm still using the 24 to 105 kit lens that came with my 5D Mark II.
Really? How is it?
Yeah, it's trashed. Like I mean, it works, but it's soft. It slides. It's got that telescopic sort of like crawl, that
Uh,
some lenses have,
uh-huh. Yeah.
which I'm
So
not a big fan of.
if you hold it vertically, like this, it just
Yeah,
trombones out. Yeah. Oh
yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, which is annoying. Especially if you're doing, or if you're like holding it up, and if I'm doing like video work or anything like that, and I happen to point down and like the focal length changes. Um,
I know how to fix that, Curtis. There's a really quick fix for that.
yeah.
Take it out, get yourself a sledgehammer, and and just let momentum and gravity help get rid of that thing, because it's gonna steal shots from you, man. Get rid of it.
I'm surprised that this lens, more than any of the others, has like just stood the test of time. I'm waiting for it to die, but it keeps going, and then I have all this weird guilt about like replacing it because it's like slowing me down or like cramping my style.
Well, but you just wait. It'll get you. You're gonna remember this conversation because you're
Yeah,
gonna be out in some remote location where you need that lens, and aliens are gonna land like 200 feet away from you, and you're gonna need that lens, and you're gonna think you're getting the shot as you put
that'll
it
show
down
me.
to feast your eyes on the spectacle of the aliens exiting the ship, and you're gonna pull it back up and keep shooting. Everything's gonna be soft, and you're
Yeah,
gonna be.
no, yeah, no. Okay, I'm convinced. I gotta get rid of it. I gotta switch over to a mirrorless system, anyways. So I'll just reinvest. I'll probably end up, as much as I want, like the nice 70 to 200, the new Canon RF lenses. I'll probably end up getting the 24 to 70
Yeah.
as a start because it's just such a versatile like lens to have.
It's a
I,
desert island lens, right? It's like.
yeah, exactly. I can shoot a lot of what I do, and if that's
Mhm.
the only lens, then it's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Cool. All right. So cool shots. I think we gave some good feedback on that, Raphael. Hope you agree. James Glennie is up next. Malevolent Chaos. Uh-oh.
Ooh, cool title.
I like that name. That sounds like a
Yeah,
punk band or something.
it does. I was gonna say, and the shot looks like album art. So
It does. Totally. It just needs some words on here, down here in a small little sans serif font. Malevolent Chaos. Right there.
that's the right font.
Yep. So I'm looking at this one now. Again, I'm looking at all these with brand new eyes. So looking at this one, the first thing I see that I like is the juxtaposition of I mean, and we've been talking about this as a running joke in the community about the orange and teal kind
Oh
of
yeah.
color treatment. And this one has it, and it works. I love the color combination. I don't care. Sorry, Stephen Sharf. I know you got a thing against orange and teal. I love orange and teal together. I like the way they look, maybe, but I also like McNuggets from time to time. So I don't know.
But do you like the way they look? I
I
mean, I can
don't.
understand. Yeah, they might taste okay in the moment. They never look good.
Don't look at them. Just don't
Yeah,
avert your eyes and shove them in your face, and you're good.
eat them in the dark while you cry.
Yeah, and later while you're suffering for what you did. But yeah, this shot, I love it. I love the complexity of it, the abstract nature of it. It's in color again, but yeah, the play of the bluish cyan hues against the reddish hues in there. This makes for a nice color contrast pop in here, and it's got me wondering. I see Twisted Metal. I have no idea, which is another good name for a punk band, by the way.
Mm.
But I see that in here, but I don't know what it is, and I don't mind that I don't know what it is. I feel like the artist wanted me to guess, and I am guessing. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know what it is either. I like it though. I feel like this is about complex shapes and chaos and color,
Yeah.
which would why would probably make great, album art for a punk band.
Mm-hmm.
It's it wants your attention, like it demands it. It's but the thing about these like complex images is they're demanding in a way, but then you also don't mind looking at them for a long period of time because, like you just said, you're interested in seeing like what's going on in there. What am I looking at? And the complementary colors is helping it out a lot here. It's
Mm-hmm.
pleasing.
Yeah.
Um, it's like super abstract,
Yeah.
which is nice.
I like the detail of the blue. It looks like he sampled a color from the these blue hues in there and used that as the key line on the inside here. I like that. That's a cool little touch there. That's
Oh
really cool.
yeah.
And yes, James Glennie, I'm talking about Borders again. Sorry.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, that's cool. I mean, it looks like 80s synth pop as well. Like
Yeah.
it's got that sort of like retro feel to it.
Yeah. Little men without hats going on in there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Or
so
Devo.
right now I'm kind of lost in it a little bit, which I guess is the point.
Mm-hmm.
Wandering around and trying to figure out what I'm looking at and how it was done. Was it on fire? Is this all light work? Um, yeah,
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, this could this could use some fire in there. Maybe Troy Miller's rubbing off on me because throw some
everything
gas
is
in there,
fire.
grow some gas and light it and get that shot. That
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe if like the foreground, if there were like sparks or embers or whatever,
yes.
um, then it would add like that extra layer where you'd have more context and you'd understand the story more. It would take away from the abstraction of it all. It would make it more layered and more complicated, but somehow less abstract.
Yeah, it would add that element of danger to the
Mm,
shot too because it already looks dangerous. It looks like you're gonna get cut if you go anywhere near this thing.
yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, good, James. James says in the chat, he says he will post a behind the scenes shot. Yeah, I want to see how this was done.
Yeah. We're going to both
Really
be like
cool.
super like blown away. It's going to be like midday sun and it's a bunch of candy wrappers.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the magic of photography, right?
Uh,
You never know. Cool. No, I like this. I like this. It's really cool. All right, and I believe that's it. That's the last
cool.
one.
Nice.
Look at that. All right. We said that, or I said, we said that we weren't going to do favorites going forward for these. I did get some feedback from the community that they don't necessarily not like. That's a
What?
weird. That's a triple double negative. I just did a triple
Yeah.
negative. A triple negative. I did.
Something like it
They
was like
don't
an elastic
necessarily
band
not
snap.
like.
Yeah. It's like when you put the rubber band on your wrist. That's what the inside of my brain did.
That's like yeah. I got stuck in a little verbal eddy in my head. No, people were saying because we mentioned that we're gonna stop doing the favorites,
Okay.
and a lot of people said they like the favorites. And my
Mm.
rationale from around not doing favorites was because this is a critique session. It's not a competition. This is us just giving a general some general guidelines on what to shoot, and then two guys giving comments on what the shot was and how well it was executed, not competition wise. But people like the favorites, So, and I have a favorite, so I want to share it.
Okay.
So
Let's hear it.
I want to hear what yours is first. I want to see if it matches
Oh,
mine.
I don't know.
You like all your children? Is that what you're saying?
I yeah, I love everybody.
There's got to be one.
I'm the New Testament. You're Old Testament.
Yeah. That's right. And don't you forget it.
I mean, like, look at this. It doesn't get any like.
Wait, pull that up again. Pull it up. Oh, look at that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Favorites. Okay. Hmm.
You want me to
I
scroll
have.
through them again? I can
Well, yeah.
scroll through
So
them.
I feel like there's a bias taking me towards Nora's just because there's a minimalist element in there. Um, I liked Craig's as well. I like the staircase. I feel like there's a lot of cool stuff happening in there.
So there was Troy's.
Hmm. Phil.
There's Phil. Craig Stampley. Irvin B. Penn. Laura Zanotnis. Raphael Swift. James Glennie. What do you think? Which one calls to you? One of them called to you. One of them had a siren song. Which one? I have my favorite on screen right now. All you gotta do is press a button and my favorite will show up. So let's see if yours matches.
I think I like the staircase. I like what's going on in there. I like all those lines.
Oh, look at that. Okay. See, I'm more of a minimalist. I like minimal. I like this because it's minimal really like and minimal. Complex. You love minimal.
Minimal's not my thing. Okay, so in all fairness, I am really drawn to this photograph, and I do love it. Obviously, it's great. Yeah. So it's hard for me to like discount that this could also be my favorite.
Yeah. No, they're both, obviously. I know it sounds contrived to say everyone's a winner. They're all good, right? But they are, they're really good shots. And thank you guys for stepping up, because part of the whole rejiggering of these critiques was to increase the quality level, to give us some meat to talk about when we do the critiques. And you guys are knocking it out of the park. Thank you for doing that. And I think these are all original images too, Curtis. So I can't be sure. Awesome. I haven't looked at the EXIF, but I believe they're original images, which was part of what we wanted, versus people harvesting their library from a decade ago and throwing an image in.
That's the hard part with these critiques I found, like in not just with TWIP community, but just in general, whenever I'm kind of part of this creative challenge, kind of weekly challenge stuff, is that people have really good intentions, but then life happens and we often find ourselves diving back into our libraries just to kind of like, stay in the mix.
Yeah.
But it does do we're doing ourselves a disservice, because the fun part is like going out and creating that time for ourselves to explore.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. It's like once you get out there, I don't know. I was foolishly at a event that had a lot of people at it yesterday. So, I'm not going to tell you what the event was because I'll be judged. But let's just say there was a lot of people that I didn't expect there. I wasn't expecting to put it this way. I was not expecting to be here right now to do this with you. I thought I was going to be in the bed. I thought I might have been in the bed today. But for some reason, nothing sticks to me. I don't know. Yeah, knock on wood.
Yeah.
So far. But but at that event, I was thinking, because it's clearly there's kind of a spectacle type event, right? There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of people, very photographable, right?
It was pro wrestling.
I told you not to give it away, It's my alter ego. The way you see my mask. But no, so we're out there hanging out and there's like all these cool things to shoot and all that, but you get lost in the overwhelm, and I honestly, Curtis, I was thinking back to a conversation yesterday, that you and I had during one of our first interviews, and it was about planning and the importance of planning to kind of counteract that chaotic overwhelm at an event, or something that's going on like that. So if there's a million things to shoot, focus in on 2 or 3 of them and just go for it and kind of, keep the rest in the periphery. And it was a tough one. So, all right, we got to wrap this one up. We're about 11 minutes past the hour. Nora, and I think we have 2 winners because you picked Craig Stampley, I believe it was, and I picked Nora. So this is the one I picked that I like. They're both good. And then this one is the one you picked. Where is it? Up? I believe it's right here. This one, right?
Yeah.
There you go. So congratulations, both of you, on being favorites for this new round of the critiques. And I don't have a topic for next week's critique. Curtis, you're not around next week, right? So you're not on the critique. You're traveling, I think?
Yeah, I've got, speaking of like events, so I've got a outdoor landscape photography conference happening here in Alberta next weekend. And that'll be like sort of wrapping up Monday. So
okay, so you're out. I will pick the topic, and I don't know if if Troy's around to do the guest critiquing, but we'll figure that out. But just look into the community, into the critique area, this area right here in critique submissions, and you will see next week's critique pop up in here probably within the next 24 hours. And cool. We will go from there. Cool. Curtis Jones, thank you, man. Thanks for coming on and doing this and donating an hour plus, probably at least 2 or 3 hours, I think, with all the research and the stress leading up to doing a live stream. So thanks.
The lost sleep. Yeah. I'm picking out the perfect wardrobe. I mean, there's a lot happening, so.
I know, I'm telling you, just do what I do.
the proper backdrop, making sure I get the right props back here. Renee would probably kill me because this is trademarked, the Hobbes.
Oh yeah, there's Hobbes. Is that's from Calvin and Hobbes, right? I never read that strip or watched that. Who's the is that Hobbes or Calvin?
It's Hobbes.
Who's Calvin?
Calvin's the kid.
Oh, the kid. Okay. All right. Yeah.
But I love doing this stuff, so yeah, I appreciate you asking me to come on, spend some
time.
That's
absolutely.
Fun.
You will be back, sir. You will be back.
Oh yeah.
All right, folks. Thanks for everybody who participated in the chat for this. I appreciate you. This was good, and for watching, especially those folks that submitted their images. Thank you for sharing your images and allowing us to chat about them and give you our feedback. So we will leave that one. Curtis, just before for folks that are just watching this, and may not be familiar with you, where should people go to kind of learn more about you and see some of the stuff that you like to shoot?
CurtisJonesPhoto.com, and then easily found on Instagram, cjonesphoto. Those are probably two of the easiest, quickest ways.
Awesome. Very cool. All right, sir. Go enjoy the rest of your day. I think I may go watch that episode of, what is it?
Love, with the giant on the beach?
Not the giant on the beach, man. No one watched that. The giant on the beach episode is the equivalent to that Black Mirror episode with the pig. And if you see, it's the equivalent of that one for me, where it's just cringe. It's cringe all the way through for me, Yeah. I don't want to see a dead body, period, let alone a 50-foot dead body, right?
Watch the Scottish guy and his mice. That's a great one for a second rewatch.
With
the mice in the barn. That's cute.
Yes, that was good. Yeah. No, I'm gonna rewatch the crab one again. I think I need to rewatch that one. Yeah. All right, folks. TWIP community, you've heard this conversation. If you've been watching that Love, Death, and Robots series, I'm curious to know what you think. You don't have to sign off. You don't have to comment on the critique, but in the community itself, I want to know what your favorite episode is of that anthology, and if it matches mine. All right, Curtis Jones, thank you, and you have a good conference next week, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Yeah, it was fun.
All right, bud. See you later.
Bye.
All right, ending